Listen, I need everyone watching this video right now to stop what you're doing, put down your phone, close all your other tabs, and give me your complete attention because what I'm about to break down for you is going to make your blood boil in ways you didn't think were possible. What happened on Smackdown last night wasn't just another return. It wasn't just another heel turn. It wasn't just another faction recruitment. What we witnessed was the single most disgusting, gut-wrenching, soul-crushing betrayal in modern WWE history, and I'm not being dramatic when I say that Randy Orton just spat in the face of every single fan who supported him through his injury, through his comeback, through every single struggle he's faced over the last 2 years. The legend killer is back, but this time he's not killing legends. He's killing something way more important. He's killing trust. He's destroying loyalty. He's massacring everything we thought we knew about who Randy Orton is as a person and as a performer. And he just aligned himself with the most obnoxious, most arrogant, most insufferable group in WWE today. Randy Orton has joined the Vision, and I'm about to tell you exactly why this changes absolutely everything and why you should be absolutely furious about what went down. Before we get into the nuclear fallout from last night, smash the like button right now because this video is going to be one of the most important pieces of wrestling content you watch all year. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell because trust me, you're going to want to be part of every conversation we have about this storyline as it develops. And drop a comment immediately telling me if you're as angry as I am about what Randy Orton just did, because I need to know I'm not losing my mind here. I need to know that other people see this for the absolute travesty that it is. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began because context is everything here, and if you don't understand the full scope of what led to this moment, you won't truly grasp just how devastating this betrayal really is. Smackdown opened with the Vision standing in the middle of the ring like they owned the place. Grayson Waller, that smug Australian who thinks he's God's gift to professional wrestling, was holding a microphone and running his mouth like he always does. Austin Theory, who has bounced between being a promising young star and an absolute joke more times than I can count, was standing there nodding along to everything Waller said like a trained seal. And whatever other lackeys they've recruited into this cult of arrogance were positioned around the ring like soldiers ready for war. Waller was on one of his typical rants, talking about how the Vision represents the future of WWE, how the old generation needs to step aside and make room for them, how they're tired of paying their dues and waiting for their moment because they're taking it right now whether anyone likes it or not. He was saying all the things that entitled young wrestlers say when they think they deserve success without actually earning it. The crowd was absolutely destroying them with boos. People were chanting insults. Signs were being held up mocking them. The energy in that arena was pure hatred for everything the Vision stands for. But here's the thing that made it even more infuriating, they didn't care. They fed off it. They thrived on it. Waller was smiling wider with every boo. Theory was flexing and posing like he was absorbing the negativity and converting it into fuel. And then Waller said something that made everyone in that arena and everyone watching at home sit up and pay attention. He said that the Vision was still incomplete. He said they needed one more piece to truly dominate SmackDown. He said they needed someone with experience, someone with credibility, someone who understands that the old way of doing things is dead and that the Vision's way is the only path forward. He said they needed a legend who was willing to admit that their time at the top is over and that the best way to stay relevant is to help elevate the next generation. And he said that this person, this final piece of the Vision, was about to make their presence known. The speculation in the arena was wild. People were shouting names. Some thought it might be Edge. Others wondered if it could be AJ Styles. There were even whispers about whether John Cena might somehow be involved. But nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, expected what happened next. The music hit. That iconic, spine-tingling theme that has signaled the arrival of one of the most dangerous men in WWE history for over 2 decades. Randy Orton's music echoed through that arena, and the place absolutely erupted in a way that I haven't heard in years. The crowd went from booing the Vision with every fiber of their being to losing their absolute minds with excitement and joy because Randy Orton returning is always a massive deal. This is a guy who has been part of WWE since 2002. He's a third-generation superstar whose grandfather and father were both respected wrestlers. He's the Viper, the Legend Killer, the Apex Predator. He's won 13 World Championships. He's main event WrestleMania multiple times. He's given us some of the most memorable moments in WWE history, from punting legends in the skull to hitting RKOs in the most creative and surprising ways imaginable. And after everything he's been through with his back injury, after the surgeries and the months of grueling rehabilitation and the very real uncertainty about whether he'd ever be able to step foot in a wrestling ring again, seeing him walk down that ramp should have been a moment of pure, unfiltered celebration. It should have been one of those feel-good returns where a beloved veteran comes back and the fans get to cheer their hearts out and feel like everything is right in the world again. But something felt off immediately, and those of us who have been watching Randy Orton for years could sense it in our bones. Randy wasn't smiling. He wasn't slapping hands with fans at ringside. He wasn't playing to the crowd or acknowledging their cheers in any way. He wasn't doing the pose on the turnbuckle that we've seen 1,000 times, the one where he spreads his arms wide and soaks in the atmosphere. He walked to the ring with purpose, with laser focus, with intensity that was almost frightening, and he had that look in his eyes. You know the look I'm talking about. It's the look Randy gets right before he does something absolutely vicious. It's the look that preceded the punt kicks that ended careers. It's the look that came before the most brutal RKOs and the most sadistic beatdowns. It's the look of a predator who has already decided what he's going to do and is just waiting for the right moment to strike. As Randy stepped through the ropes and stood in the center of the ring, facing Grayson Waller and Austin Theory directly, the energy in the arena started to shift. The cheers became uncertain. People started to realize that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't going to go the way they expected. Maybe Randy Orton didn't come back to save Smackdown from the Vision. Maybe he didn't return to be the hero that stands up to these entitled young punks and puts them in their place. Maybe he came back for something else entirely, something that none of us wanted to even consider as a possibility. Grayson Waller extended his hand with that trademark smirk on his face, that expression of supreme confidence that makes you want to punch him directly in his teeth. The crowd immediately started screaming at Randy not to take it. Thousands of voices were yelling no in unison, begging him not to trust these guys, not to align himself with everything that's wrong with WWE right now, not to throw away decades of goodwill and respect just to be part of some group of guys who haven't proven anything yet. And for a moment, Randy just stared at that outstretched hand like he was genuinely considering his options, like he was weighing the consequences of whatever decision he was about to make. The tension in that building was absolutely suffocating. You could feel thousands of people holding their breath simultaneously, waiting to see what would happen next, hoping against hope that Randy would do the right thing. And then Randy Orton did the unthinkable. He looked Grayson Waller dead in the eyes, reached out, and shook his hand. The reaction from the crowd was immediate and visceral. Boos erupted like a volcanic explosion. But Randy wasn't done. He pulled Waller in for a hug, a full embrace like they were brothers who had been separated for years. He turned to Austin Theory and did the same thing, clapping him on the back and pulling him close. And as the Vision's music hit again and the three of them stood united in the center of the ring, arms raised in solidarity, the boos that rained down from the crowd were unlike anything I've heard in years. This wasn't normal heel heat. This wasn't the kind of reaction you get when a villain cuts a good promo or cheats to win a match. This was genuine anger. This was betrayal. This was heartbreak. This was fans feeling like someone they had invested in emotionally, someone they had supported through thick and thin, had just stabbed them directly in the back without warning or remorse. Randy grabbed a microphone, and what he said next made everything exponentially worse. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain himself in a way that might make people understand his perspective. He doubled down. He leaned into it. He twisted the knife that was already lodged in the hearts of everyone watching. He talked about how he's been sitting at home during his recovery, watching WWE programming week after week, and how he's been seeing the same exhausting pattern play out over and over again like a broken record. Veterans clinging to their spots at the top of the card. Young talent getting told to wait their turn and pay their dues. The same people main eventing the same shows while the next generation sits in catering or gets relegated to meaningless matches that nobody cares about. He said he was guilty of it too, that he spent the better part of 2 decades being one of those veterans who felt entitled to opportunities just because of his name and his history, who took spots away from younger guys because he thought he deserved them more. But according to Randy, his injury changed everything. It gave him perspective that he never had before. It forced him to sit on his couch and watch the business from the outside instead of being in the thick of it. And what he saw disgusted him. He saw a system that rewards people for simply existing rather than evolving. He saw fans who claim they want change but then complain when anything actually changes. He saw a locker room full of people who are content to maintain the status quo because it's comfortable and safe. And he realized that if he came back and just slotted himself into that same old system, if he returned as the smiley babyface Randy Orton who shakes hands and kisses babies and does all the things that fans expect him to do, then nothing would ever change. The business would continue to stagnate. The same problems would persist. And his comeback would be meaningless. So he made a decision, Randy explained, and it wasn't an easy one. He decided that the business doesn't need another feel-good comeback story where a veteran returns and gets a nostalgia pop and then fades into irrelevance. It needs evolution. It needs revolution. It needs people who are willing to burn down the old structures and build something new from the ashes. It needs the vision. And if joining this group means he gets to extend his career while also helping to build the future of WWE, while also making sure that talented young wrestlers don't have to go through the same struggles that he went through, then that's exactly what he's going to do. And he made it crystal clear that he doesn't care who has a problem with it. He doesn't care about the boos. He doesn't care about the angry tweets and the YouTube videos and the podcast rants. He's doing what he believes is right, and everyone else can either accept it or get out of his way. The crowd was absolutely nuclear with heat at this point. The decibel level of those boos must have been setting records. People were throwing trash toward the ring. They were chanting expletives that would have to be bleeped out on television. They They were begging for someone, anyone, to come out and confront Randy and the Vision and tell them exactly what everyone was thinking. But nobody came. The locker room stayed backstage. Whether it was out of fear, or shock, or maybe because the roster understands that going after Randy Orton when he's in this mindset is essentially a death sentence for your career, nobody stepped up to challenge them in that moment. And the Vision just stood there soaking it all in, looking like they had just won the lottery and couldn't believe their good fortune. Because they had won the lottery, make no mistake about it. They recruited one of the biggest names in WWE history. They got a guy with more experience, more accolades, more credibility, and more in-ring ability than everyone in their group combined. They got the Viper, the Apex Predator, a 13-time world champion who has forgotten more about professional wrestling than most people will ever know. And now all of that experience, all of that cunning, all of that calculated viciousness is being put to use, making Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, two guys who have done absolutely nothing to deserve this kind of boost, look like the most unstoppable force in WWE. Let's talk about why this is so absolutely catastrophic for everyone else on the Smackdown roster, because the implications of this are staggering. Randy Orton isn't just another body to throw into the Vision's ranks. He's not just a name they can use in their promos to sound more legitimate. He's one of the most dangerous and effective in-ring performers in WWE history. This is a man who has defeated literally everyone worth defeating. He's beaten John Cena, The Undertaker, Triple H, Batista, Edge, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, and countless others. He's main event WrestleMania. He's won the Royal Rumble. He's held both the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship multiple times. He knows every trick in the book, and he's invented several new tricks that aren't even in the book yet. And now all of that expertise is being weaponized to protect and elevate Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Think about what this means practically for anyone who wants to go after the Vision. Anytime someone challenges Waller or Theory to a match, they have to worry about Randy Orton lurking somewhere in the arena, waiting for the perfect moment to strike with an RKO out of nowhere. Anytime there's a big pay-per-view match or a championship opportunity on the line, the Vision can interfere with complete impunity because who in their right mind is going to try to stop them when they have Randy freaking Orton watching their backs? He's the ultimate insurance policy, the ultimate equalizer, the ultimate ace in the hole that makes the Vision virtually untouchable. But here's what really makes me angry, what really makes my blood boil every time I think about this situation. Randy Orton didn't need this. He didn't need to join a faction to stay relevant. He didn't need to align himself with these guys to get opportunities or to have meaningful matches or to be featured prominently on television. He's Randy Orton. His name alone is enough to main event any show. He could have come back, pointed at any championship he wanted, and WWE would have built an entire storyline around him challenging for it. The fans would have been thrilled. The ratings would have been fantastic. Everyone would have been happy. Instead, he chose to take what feels like the easy path, the coward's way out. He chose to join up with guys who talk a big game but haven't actually accomplished anything of real significance in their careers yet. He chose to throw away decades of goodwill with the fans, decades of being one of the most respected and admired performers in the business, just to be part of some group that represents everything wrong with entitled young wrestlers who think they deserve success without earning it the way previous generations did. And that's what makes this so utterly disgusting and hard to stomach. Randy Orton sold out. There's no other way to say it. He sold out his principles, his legacy, his relationship with the fans, everything that made him special, just to have a cushy spot in a faction where he doesn't have to carry the load by himself anymore. And maybe that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. The Randy Orton who became the legend killer by taking out Hall of Famers one by one didn't need anyone's help. The Randy Orton who won his first world championship at 24 years old did it on his own merit. The Randy Orton who has been one of WWE's top stars for over 20 years got there by being better than everyone else, not by hiding behind other people. And now he's reduced himself to being the muscle for Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, two guys who should be looking up to him and learning from him rather than using him as their personal weapon. The implications for ongoing storylines are absolutely massive and far-reaching. Cody Rhodes, who is in the middle of his own story and his own journey, must be looking at this situation and realizing that one of his potential allies, someone who could have been in his corner when things got tough, just became one of his most dangerous enemies. LA Knight, who has been fighting the Vision for weeks now and building incredible momentum with the crowd, suddenly has to deal with Randy Orton being added to the mix, which essentially means his chances of overcoming them just drop to near zero unless he can find some allies of his own. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who have their own complicated issues to deal with and their own targets on their backs, now have to constantly watch over their shoulders because the Vision just became infinitely more dangerous and unpredictable with Randy in their ranks. Every single babyface on SmackDown just had their lives become exponentially harder overnight. Every feud, every rivalry, every championship chase is now complicated by the presence of the Vision with Randy Orton as their enforcer. And for what? So Randy can have a comfortable spot in a group instead of standing on his own 2 feet like the legend he's supposed to be? So he can avoid the pressure of being Randy Orton and instead just be one part of a larger unit? That's not the Randy Orton we grew up watching. That's not the competitor who thrived on being the best and proving it night after night. But maybe that's exactly the point of all this. Maybe Randy Orton is tired of being a legend. Maybe he's exhausted from carrying the weight of expectations that come with being Randy Orton for over 20 years. Maybe the pressure of always having to deliver, always having to be at the top of his game, always having to be the guy that people look to for incredible matches and memorable moments, finally broke him. Maybe joining the Vision allows him to just exist as part of something rather than having to be the singular focus and carry storylines on his own shoulders. And if that's genuinely his mindset, if that's what drove this decision, then he's weaker than I ever thought possible. Because the Randy Orton I grew up watching, the one who inspired a generation of wrestlers and fans, didn't need anyone. He didn't hide behind factions or groups or safety nets. He stood alone in the center of the ring and destroyed anyone who dared to challenge him. That version of Randy Orton would be absolutely disgusted by what we saw on Smackdown. That Randy Orton would RKO current Randy Orton straight to hell for being such a coward and selling out everything he once stood for. The truly scary and ominous part about all of this is that we're probably only seeing the beginning of what the Vision is capable of now. With Randy Orton giving them legitimacy and credibility, they now have the platform and the power to recruit even more people to their cause. Who else might join them in the coming weeks? Are there other veterans sitting at home or languishing in the midcard who are going to see what Randy did and decide they want a piece of that action too? Are there young wrestlers in NXT or on the main roster who are going to be seduced by the promise of being part of the hottest, most talked about faction in WWE? This could snowball into something that completely takes over the entire brand. And if that happens, SmackDown becomes borderline unwatchable because the Vision will be shoved down our throats in every segment, every match, every storyline, every promo, until we're all sick of seeing them but have no choice because WWE has decided they're the focus of everything. And the absolute worst part is that WWE might see the heat they're generating, might see the negative reactions and the angry comments and the passionate debates, and decide to just keep pushing them harder and harder because in their minds, heat equals engagement. They might not care that it's the wrong kind of heat, the kind that makes people turn off the show rather than staying tuned in. They might not care that fans are genuinely upset rather than being worked in a fun way. They might just see the numbers and the metrics and decide that controversy creates cash, so they're going to milk this Randy Orton and the Vision storyline for everything it's worth regardless of how it damages Randy's legacy or how it affects the overall quality of SmackDown's programming. Where does all of this leave Randy Orton's legacy when everything is said and done? Before last night's episode, before this betrayal, Randy was on track to ride off into the sunset as one of the all-time greats. He was going to be remembered as someone who had an incredible career spanning multiple decades, who gave us countless memorable moments, who evolved and adapted as the business changed around him, and who ended things on his own terms with his head held high. Now, though, that narrative is completely shattered. Now he's going to be remembered as the guy who joined the Vision. That's going to be a permanent stain on everything he's accomplished. 20 years from now, when people look back at Randy Orton's career, this moment is going to be one of the things they talk about, and not in a positive way. They're going to discuss it as a cautionary tale about how even the greatest can fall from grace, about how desperation or ego or whatever motivated this decision can cause someone to make choices that ruin everything they built. And maybe Randy doesn't care about that. Maybe he's at a point in his career and his life where he'd rather make money and stay relatively healthy and have an easy schedule than worry about how history is going to remember him when he's gone. Maybe the legacy stuff doesn't matter to him anymore because he's already secured his Hall of Fame spot and his place in wrestling history regardless of what he does from here on out. But I care about his legacy. The fans care about it. We invested years of our lives into watching Randy Orton become one of the greatest to ever do this. We cheered for him and booed him at the appropriate times. We bought his merchandise and his pay-per-views. We supported him through injuries and through creative slumps and through everything else. And we deserved better than watching him flush his legacy down the toilet just to be part of some faction that's going to be completely forgotten 5 years from now when the next hot stable comes along. So what happens now? Where does this storyline go from here? Does someone finally step up from the SmackDown locker room to challenge the Vision now that they have Randy Orton leading them? Does a group of top babyfaces band together to form their own faction to counter the Vision's dominance? Does Randy eventually turn on the Vision and reveal that this was all some elaborate long con to destroy them from within? Does Triple H have a master plan for all of this that we can't see yet? I genuinely don't know, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure that WWE knows either. This felt like a decision made purely for shock value without fully thinking through the long-term consequences or having a clear endgame mapped out. And that's absolutely terrifying because it means we might be stuck with this version of Randy Orton for months or potentially even years with no satisfying conclusion in sight. What I do know with absolute certainty is that SmackDown just became must-watch television, but for all the wrong reasons. I'm going to be tuning in every single Friday night now, not because I'm excited and entertained by what's happening, but because I need to see how this train wreck continues to unfold and develop. I need to see if WWE can somehow salvage this situation and turn it into something worthwhile, or if they're just going to lean fully into it and make things progressively worse as time goes on. I need to see if there's any chance whatsoever of Randy Orton redeeming himself and explaining this in a way that makes sense, or if he's fully committed to being a despicable villain for however long this run lasts. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now because I desperately need to know what you're thinking about all this. Are you as angry and betrayed as I am? Do you think Randy made the right call for his career? Do you believe this is going to lead to something amazing that we can't see yet, or is this the beginning of the end for Smackdown as a quality wrestling program? I want to hear every single opinion, every theory, every passionate rant, because this is the kind of moment that divides the entire fan base and creates debates that will last for years. Hit that like button if this video got you fired up and made you feel something. Subscribe to the channel for more in-depth wrestling analysis and breakdowns. Share this video with everyone in your life who watches WWE because they absolutely need to hear this perspective and be part of this conversation. Randy Orton joining the Vision is going to be discussed and analyzed for years to come, and I want to make sure we're all part of shaping that narrative and holding WWE accountable for what they do with this storyline. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one where we'll hopefully have more answers about where this insanity is headed.